I'm not going to waste any time. All right. First one on out is our executive producer and the brilliant mind of Meryl Davis. The man who made it all happen, creator and executive producer Ron Moore. The charming Richard Rankin. We paid them to do that. The fantastic Sophie Skelton. The one and only Sam Hewen. And the woman who needs no introduction, Katrina Balfe.
Hi, Sam.
Oh. Hi, Mom. Thanks.
Guys, how are you feeling tonight?
You look lovely.
Good. Hello, everybody.
It's who?
Random Scottish voice now, dude.
Did everybody have a snack? Did anyone want a drink?
We want a drink.
All right,
Do we want a
let's drink.
Yeah. Do we?
I need a drink.
Oh, yeah.
It's Outlander. We must have...
But I'm gonna make you guys pour it because I'll spill it all over you. All over you. Start. Let's send it down. Thank you, Paley, for the whiskey. Send it on
Thank
down.
you.
I'm gonna have you just pass it on down.
I would start down.
We're gonna play a little game. Should I explain how the game works?
Should we just, right, you
Yeah.
hold that.
I'll hold that. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, Mom.
Yeah, that works.
Season 4, this is what happens a lot.
We're gonna do superlatives. We did these in high school when I went to high school. But I'm gonna make a statement. You guys are gonna fill in the blank with the name of your colleague. The person whose name is said has to take a sip of their drink.
Oh.
Let's.
Sam.
Can I have
What's wrong?
While we're doing this, are there any book readers here tonight? Unfortunately, we have to keep it spoiler-free, but maybe next time.
Thanks very much.
Outlander or just books in general?
Did you get one?
Just books. I'll do it after.
Okay.
I have to keep this party under control. All right, first question.
What are we doing?
Okay.
Just say your name whenever she says yeah. Just say your name.
I'm gonna make a statement.
Yes.
Make a statement. Whichever colleague does that has to take a drink.
Whichever colleague does that. I'm glad that we've brought down the tone of PaleyFest.
I think we always do, though.
We always do. So cheers, PaleyFest.
Cheers.
Yes, hey, Slanger.
Just a shot glass now.
Oh,
It's not a
sorry.
full glass.
Okay.
Don't take it all at once.
All right, okay.
All right. Who's most likely to ruin a scene by laughing?
Richard.
Without fail.
Wait, is there more than one? Can there be more than one answer?
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like Katrina laughs.
I feel like,
okay then.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty equal here, huh?
Most
Sam. Oh, okay.
Most likely to try to make their partner break in a scene.
Richard.
Richard,
You literally do.
You're just saying my name.
No, you literally poke me in the back.
Yeah, we'll just
I see
start.
what's going on here. Like,
Pour some of it up.
It's all right, we got more
It's all
here.
just fucking ours.
Okay, that's great.
Most likely to complain about the cold on location.
Richard.
Richard.
I'm being bullied here. I'm being bullied here.
Just drink.
Do you want to give me the glass and you just have this?
I see.
open
A
up
pen. Wow.
Simmer down now.
There's an offer.
Most likely to sneak a shot into their coffee.
Richard.
That's not.
That would be Sam.
Come on.
Come on.
No.
Do we have to cancel the game?
No.
Because of Richard?
I know, I feel a little bad for Richard. I feel like some people might not be telling the truth.
Meryl, you have
one was-
to take one
The
for
first
the
two
team,
were
Meryl.
absolutely true. Would
Yeah,
you
I'll
like
give
some
you
more
that,
drink?
but-
Better fill that one up
you like
before
some
you
more?
carry on, Richard.
Yep.
Can you feel your own? I
Most
don't
likely to
trust
fall
myself.
asleep on set or in their office.
That'd be
Sam.
Sam.
Who's the worst secret keeper / spoiler revealer?
Ron Moore.
Yeah.
Without objection.
Who hits the catering table first?
Katrina.
Earl.
No.
Actually, no one hits the catering.
Sophie
Not our
doesn't leave
catering.
the catering table.
No one's running to the
these two
catering
steal
table.
our snacks. So
Whoa, listen. Wait. There are snacks first.
that's true. That's true.
Most likely to injure themselves while performing a stunt.
Oh my God. Ugh.
Most likely to injure your co-star during a stunt.
Okay, what did you do?
What haven't I done?
Okay.
I
Are you
mean,
okay?
Now I am. I mean, I've been flung across a room. I've been.
You've had a
Punched in the face.
in the water. He hit you.
Oh,
with the,
he shoved me into a massive piece of
Right.
wood.
I hit you with my sword once.
You did a couple of.
Thank you,
Keep
Paley.
dreaming, baby. Keep dreaming.
All
whiskey
right,
was such a good
last
idea.
one because we have to get the show on the road. Most likely to take an embarrassing photo of their colleague is blackmail.
Sam.
I think we're all kind of guilty here.
Yeah, let's just
From
all
the
just-
writers'
Cheers,
room down
cheers,
there.
Sandra.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
All right. Before we get into it, let's take a quick break and watch a clip from the premiere episode. You're in it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I took yours.
All right, guys, we're going to start with a pretty obvious question, but I want to hear all of your answers. For an inherently Scottish show, what's the biggest challenge of translating it to America? How do you retain the essence of something while keeping it fresh, and two, avoid turning it into a wholly different show?
Well, there's two challenges. There's the challenge creatively, and then there's the challenge of physical production. On the simplest level, visually, it was like a reinvention of everything we've done. Because if you think about Scotland and the UK, and the location shooting that we did, we would go out and shot on location a lot, but all the old buildings and all the old structures are made of stone. And in America and the colonies, everything's made of wood. So right away, it tremendously limited what we could physically shoot in Scotland. We had to build a lot more. We had to do a lot more visual effects work. Everything had to kind of be redone, props, set decoration, new costumes, new visual landscapes, a lot more CGI. So it was a tremendous sort of, challenge just on a purely production level. And then creatively, you're also sort of bringing a different mythology, a different land, a different culture, a different style of storytelling. You're dealing with, a polyglot sort of group of people that have come to the colonies at this time. And yeah, the audience's perception is that this is a Scottish show. But in truth, the tale that Diana has given us has always been broader than that. It went to France, it's gone to Jamaica, it's gone on the high seas. It's always kind of moved around the world. But we try to retain that sort of core of the Scottish idea at the heart of it. And I think we accomplished that because you're still focused on Claire and Jamie and their family. Is sort of everything springs from them overall. So you always kind of have the heart and soul of the show, and hearkening back to Castle Leoch and hearkening back to Lollybrook and the roots, are overseas, which is really that's the American story, is people coming to these shores but having roots in the old world.
I mean, I think also the thing we knew right off the bat is we'd never be able to recreate the southern heat that you would have in North Carolina and Scotland. It's just, I've said it before, you get a week of summer in Scotland, and I put summer in quotes. So, right off the bat, we were like, we're not going to talk about weather. We won't be able to have everyone look glistening. Obviously, the actors, you don't want them to freeze to death. So we kind of knew right off the bat that we wouldn't deal with the weather because we just couldn't. That's, trees are trees, and once you're in the forest, Scotland can look a lot like North Carolina, but there are certain things you can't recreate, and weather is certainly one of them.
Sam and Katrina, did you find yourselves carrying yourselves differently on set? You're still in Scotland, but is there a conscious change you had to make for this season?
No, I mean, I think people don't really change just because they change location. And I think, what Ron said is really true. Like, we're telling the story of immigrants arriving in a new country. And, generally people, when they arrive somewhere, they retain so much of where they came from. It's that way of bridging that gap of who you were and this new place that you're in. So I think, certain things were different, like our costumes were different and the materials that were used were different, and that had a bit of a change. But Jamie and Claire are still the people that they are.
But they are affected by the land, and I think there is a great positivity and a great freedom here, and for the first time you get to see these characters settle, and we're constantly dealing with the drama in previous seasons of sort of trying to find each other or trying to find a place to stay, and here finally they found that, and the land of America seems to be a very, very positive place for them. I mean, there's a lot of danger obviously, but yeah, they're together at least.
And they're finally settling down. I mean, they've got their home. They're building Fraser's Ridge after those 2 decades, notwithstanding, after most of their relationships on the road. How does this change for them? This is finally, they can tangibly say, this is where we are. This is ours.
Yeah, I think it's a very different dynamic this season. I mean, this kind of look at domesticity and them in their home, and it's a lot calmer, but there's a strength to their bond now. They've been through the worst thing that they could ever go through, they think, thus far. But, the separation, Claire coming back, I mean, she paid such a high price to come back. She left her daughter. And after that, I don't think you can really have a cliffhanger again. They have to be solid at this point. There's a lot of, obviously, external stuff that are still going to happen, but I think as a union, it's really strong, and there's a relaxed nature, I guess, to it, which was we've never really explored that.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
because they've grown up, and they know each other better, and maybe their temperament has calmed a little bit. But also, I feel, and I might be wrong here, but I feel like we're setting up kind of the bigger story. We were dealing with Scotland and sort of that period, and now it feels like we're dealing with something even bigger, which is the history of America, and as we know, there's a great deal more on the horizon that's coming. So this is really feels for me like we're setting up maybe next seasons if you guys like to employ us again. That would be great.
Tell us about next season.
So what's happening next?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
What?
Do you guys think Claire and Jamie think about, I mean, obviously I've seen the first few episodes. Claire knows what's coming, but that's really far away. 8 years feels like a long time. Is it weighing on them, the revolution, everything that's coming in a broader sense, or is it more just like, let's get our home built first?
I mean, for me, I think initially when they were trying to decide what their next step would be, I think that obviously weighed on Claire's mind. It's like, well, I know this is coming on the horizon, but I think, like everybody, the macro can feel far too big for anyone to deal with. And I think for her, having this family unit and building a home has been something that she's never had a chance to really experience in this loving, positive way that she has with Jamie. And so I think that that's her main focus. And I think they know that whatever comes down the line, they'll deal with it then. And so I don't think that she's thinking about it too much later on.
And Jamie doesn't even really comprehend it.
No, I mean, he's obviously told a lot, and you saw there in that snippet, he understands what is coming, and I think, the storm is coming, and it's on the horizon. But for Jamie, he's really got kind of got nothing here apart from the people that he loves. You know, he's away from the country that he loves. He doesn't really have many. He doesn't have any possessions. He really is actually trying to fight for the people that he loves. But for him, that's what it's about. It's about creating a home and an environment where he can be, you know, the laird or look after his loved ones. And without giving away, obviously, spoilers, but there are.
But you just did.
Hey, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah, what are you guys there are a lot of surprises and a lot more of his loved ones.
They read the book. Definitely want to get to the two of you, but I don't know if I can talk about this part. Fraser's Ridge and dealing with the American wilderness. Is it a more physical season? I mean, the last time we saw you were getting the hell beat out of you off the Atlantic Ocean somewhere. Is it any different? You shot a gun? I mean...
I shot a gun before. No. Claire, does people forget things? That was like, even when we were talking about that scene, people were like, oh, we need to show you how to shoot the gun. Are you going to be okay to shoot a gun? I was like, Claire and Jenny got on some horses with some guns, you know. But this is just a bigger gun. And
yes.
It was kind of fun. It was fun.
That's what we need. We need a bigger gun
We
next
just
time.
need a bigger gun. Next season is going to be an Uzi.
They're going to run out of room in the armory.
Is it more physical? I don't know that it's... I think the show's always been really physical.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely shot outside a lot more this season, I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's
and it
just
was
a perception thing.
Pretty bad winter. I mean, we would talk about the weather all the time, but it was pretty bad. And yeah, we were, because we were establishing Fraser's Ridge, and for them, there's nothing there. It is the wilderness, and there's nature is pretty dangerous, but also everything around them. But actually, the whole of the season, it really is amazing to watch this settlement grow, and it's been, by the end of the season, to see Fraser's Ridge really established and become this settlement.
Heard rumors of a bear.
His Meryl was laughing.
There may be a bear.
Maybe some fish.
Yes.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Though maybe not in the way you think.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll stop.
Jamie's, yeah.
Yes.
I can see season 4 summarised now.
And maybe
Nature is dangerous.
Nature's dangerous. There you go.
Sophie and Richard, we're about to watch a clip of your characters, but before we do that, we are.
About time.
Nobody told Richard.
I research. But excellent.
Do you want notes?
Nature.
Mostly history.
Tell us where we find your characters when season 4 opens.
Cool. I'll take this one. So, I mean, for Bree, we sort of find her dealing with sending her mother back. She's essentially, through that sacrifice, made herself an orphan. And she's moved away and changed from history to MIT. So she's managed to detach herself a bit and live a sort of different life, if you like. She and Roger are sort of going through that long-distance relationship. But I think for Bree, there's a line in the book where Bree says that she's known a marriage made of love and one made of obligation, and she knows which one she does and doesn't want. And I think that's very much Bree's mindset from the beginning of this. Roger's quite a forward, shall we say, person in a relationship, and I think for Bree, that's something that...
Is he forward? Just traditional. I mean, you could argue I would say traditional.
Let's not relive this fight on stage.
Homely values, which Rihanna kind of like brushes against.
Values which will...
Relationships, complicated things.
This is why the
Values which
show
he'll
takes
only
10
hold.
months to shoot.
A young love, huh?
Yeah.
Who, what, sorry?
Obviously.
Whose side are you on?
Do you want to come to
It was the 60s.
Wait a minute, you kissed him.
Just on the
I don't know what she's talking about.
Let's roll the clip. Does Brianna know how driving works?
I mean, I'd use the excuse of it being the other side of the road, but
How many times did that scene take with those words? Coxidinius.
It wasn't so much the language, it was more the placement of the ketchup.
Yeah, that was very initial.
It's like, how do we sell the fact that Roger's got ketchup? Like,
because you see, when Richard eats chips with ketchup, he gets it everywhere. So it was narrowing it down.
turns out Roger's much more precise about where the ketchup goes.
Balls.
I have to talk about another trailer that shows Brie going near a couple stones.
Some what?
You tell me.
What?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Just don't touch them. 'Cause you know your mum has a thing about
But
touching stones. It never ends well.
Frank's voice. Can we talk about that?
Can we?
What?
Tell me more.
it's just in Brie's head, right?
Yeah, it's just something in Brie's head. It was just something we thought at that moment would work, but I don't think we can really talk about.
Hard to say. But but you are correct.
Good. I didn't make it up. So we meet a whole new cast of characters this season, particularly one Stephen Bonnet. Who's laughing?
Behind you.
Okay. What is the challenge of bringing? Some people have told me that he's worse than Blackjack Randall. I have no idea. I don't do my research. But how do you place a new villain in here when you've already got somebody who was horrific? And how do you make him feel different? How do you make him scarier? I mean, this is...
Well, you don't try to
territory.
make him scarier, and you try very hard not to repeat those beats or try to compete with them and say, how can we make him even worse than Blackjack? Because that's just a losing game, and no one wants you to go there. So you just try to carve out a different character and a different path, and you have the bones of the character and the idea that's in the book, and then you find the right actor, and you just the character starts to speak to you how this is going to be a different story than the story you told before, because Blackjack is in a category by himself in the show and in the mythology of the series, so you shouldn't try to compete with that. This is a different character, and the expectations for the audience should not be that this is how we top Blackjack Randall. This is a completely different character and a completely different story.
Anybody have anything else to add there?
I just say that Ed Spielers,
add some
or should I
ears
say
there.
Spielers?
Layers.
Spielers.
Spilliers.
Well, if you want to say it with an accent, but it's Spilliers, I think.
Spielers. He says it's like that. It's Spielers, but he's wonderful. He's
Yeah, he is
without
great.
giving away too much, but he's incredible and really went for it. And I think did an amazing job in
Yeah.
this. We don't like him, but he's good.
Did you haze him on his first day of set?
We bullied him.
Mercilessly.
Yeah, he deserves it. But
It was the Irish accent, I think.
yeah,
Oh, is that a spoiler? That's not a spoiler.
Another character is Aunt Yocasta.
spoiler.
Did I pronounce her name right? Joe Costa. Sorry, I heard it in my head, Yocasta, when I was reading it. Let's talk about her introduction. This is Jamie's real family in America, but she's incredibly complicated, and she and Claire are going to butt heads a little bit. I kind of want to get everyone's opinion on this. What does she mean? What does her introduction to the story mean?
For Jamie, it's just an incredible moment. I think to see someone that is, the last member of his, close family, someone that looks, sounds like his mother, and for him, it's a really touching moment and a really important moment. His family for him is really strong, and so it's a lifeline, in America. And she does offer him, without talking about too many spoilers here, but she gives him a place where he feels at home. I'm trying not to say too much, but yeah.
They literally arrive at her house.
They arrive at her house. Okay, but it's it was for him. It's a really wonderful moment, and to be surrounded again by family and to introduce his new family to her. Yes, however,
I think for Claire it's quite complicated. I think initially when she sees how emotional Jamie is at seeing Jocasta and what that means to him, obviously she goes in there wanting to have a good relationship with her and wanting the best. But, you know, I think the fact that Jocasta has a plantation is very difficult for Claire. I think seeing slavery firsthand, seeing it up close it's very difficult for Claire to get past that. And I think that just creates this wall between her and Jocasta that can never really be bridged, because they're just from two different times and they'll never understand each other's perspective. And that's quite difficult because in many respects, Jocasta would be the solution to a lot of problems, but I think Claire just can't get past that at all. So
that's what we do with Outlander. You know, we do and have done it in past seasons. You know, show like the Jamie's time and the traditions and the social and moral codes, and then we see it through the eyes of a modern woman. And I think it's interesting that eventually Jamie gets to see her side of the situation and realize that this is actually a poisoned apple or a bad place for him. But I'm trying not to give away too much.
I put a call out on Twitter ahead of this panel to, asking for questions from the fans, and a lot of our book readers said, this season goes into a lot of very timely topics. You have racism, you have xenophobia, you have natives' rights. Meryl and Ron, how do you approach these topics that are so incendiary even today, making sure you are condemning past actions while also being truthful to a period of time?
Well, you really try to play the story as truthfully as you can, and the show is not a platform to go and make big statements. The show is a story, and it's a story about these people and these characters and different times and different mores. And so you try to tell the story in the most truthful way that it is, and not to gloss over it, and not to romanticize it, and not at the same time to be strident and make judgments from the 21st century about it. You're trying to sort of look at it, but the focus of the show is not about the politics of the time or the statements of the time. You're trying to tell the story of Jamie and Claire and Roger and Brianna and all the characters. And as they move through this, how would these characters react to that situation? What is Claire's reaction to walking into a plantation? What is Jamie's reaction to walking into a plantation? Who is Jocasta? How does she live there? How does she, run this place, and why? And to try to go at it from the interior of the characters' point of views and not the exterior about, well, let's talk about this world, and let's talk about why they were doing this and what we think about this today. Let's try to be interior and move outward.
Yeah, not a lot to add because it's a pretty complete answer. But I mean, obviously, Claire is kind of our way into that world and seeing obviously how we feel about that. But as Ron said, I think it's important not to hang a lantern on anything. We're trying to depict it as it really was and not say, we think this is bad, because slavery is bad. We don't need to tell people that it is. And someone like Jocasta doesn't see, it's not that she sees slavery as bad or good, it's just her way of life, and that's how she views it, and she doesn't know anything differently. And so it's important to show that that is her reality. And obviously Claire comes in and her reality is, this is a horrible situation and how can you do this? But for Jocasta, that's just the way things are done, and she does not see that as being bad or good, and she thinks she's doing right by people. So I think, as Ron said, you just have to show it hopefully as it was, and the audience brings to it their expectations and judgments and realities of it.
And I think it's fair to say as well that Maria Doyle Kennedy does an amazing job as Aunt Jocasta. Yes. You're gonna,
She's so good.
You're gonna love her. She's a Mackenzie as well. So
and a Fraser.
You can't trust them. No. And a Fraser.
Oh, she's not a Fraser actually.
Marilyn, Ron, you employed Canadian First Nation actors to play Cherokee and Mohawk. natives. Can you talk about that process a little bit? Did they bring any of their own history or experiences to set?
Yeah, it was a tricky situation that obviously, ideally, we would have brought actors and background actors from the United States, but due to SAG rules, since we're non-SAG, that wasn't a possibility. But it was very important to us that we bring Indigenous people to play those roles and not bring white people to play those roles, as sometimes it's done in history. And so we went to Canada, where we didn't have the union rules, and brought over 100 plus First Nation actors. And it was amazing. I mean, certainly I can't talk too much about some of the things because it's a little farther down, but it was both an honor for us on the crew to work with people who taught us more about their culture. And Matt Roberts, who's one of our producers, went and met with one of the Cherokee leaders early on in the process to talk about the stories and make sure we were doing things the right way. And we had many people who instructed us on both the language and the cultural aspects. And for us, it was a huge learning experience. And I hope there's certain things we do in the show that we're trying to depict certain stories in certain ways, but I hope we were sensitive in some ways and depicted that culture in a way that we did right by people, but still told Diana's story, because it's very difficult because you're telling certain things the way she does it, and kind of have to stay true to those stories as well. But it was an amazing experience for all of us, and I think certainly later on in the season, we just had some amazing experiences.
Amazing. Can't wait to see the end of the season. All right, last one before we start audience questions. This is for everyone. Meryl, we can start with you and make our way down the line. Just on a personal level, what's the one thing that changed the most for you going into season 4 that differs from past seasons? It could be the way you approach something, a challenge you wanted to meet with your character, a challenge you wanted to meet with a script, anything that stands out to you.
Oh, that's a hard question. I don't want to go first.
Sorry.
I feel like everyone goes, oh, is this season harder or easier than the last season? I got to be honest, every season is harder than the last season. We think, oh, that season was so tough, but Freeland's so hard, but this season's going to be so easy. This season, I think, because of all of the challenges of trying to do North Carolina and Scotland was incredibly challenging. And there are also some key moments in this season that we know the fans are very excited about, and we are very excited about, and there's a lot of pressure to get those right. And certainly in The Minister's Cat, things like that. I mean, little moments that maybe aren't huge story points, but are nice moments to try to get in. And I think there were a few moments this season, there's spoilers, but that we hoped we met expectations and also kind of did it our way, and I feel like we really pulled that off.
I think for me it was more challenging on some story levels in terms of the translation of the book to the screen, trying to find the balance between the characters, trying to find I always talk about the rhythm of the show, and I always think of music and sort of melody lines and bass lines that carry you through a piece, whether it's in a scene or episodically or over the course of the whole season, and finding the orchestration of this, of how these disparate elements of Roger and Brianna, Claire and Jamie, the people going into the Carolinas, Jocasta, when you were moving to certain instruments in the orchestra, to really torture this metaphor, was it was a challenge. It was a challenge. It took a while to kind of hear what the rhythm of this particular season was. What was the melody line this year? What was the bass line that was driving you through the whole thing? That took a while, and it took a while on the script, and it took a while editorially, because in editorially you can really emphasize and move around puzzle pieces and sort of figure out how it worked. And ultimately, I was very happy with how it turned out. I was like, oh, there it is. There's the piece of music. That works. But it was a different challenge this year than it had been at previous ones.
Well, I think it's quite tricky for me because it's a bit of a change of scenery for Roger. He goes from Oxford to just outside of town. There are various challenges with that, logistically, like moving all your shit, like getting to just outside of town can be trickier than you might think.
Where does he go?
Where does he go?
Yeah.
Just like he settles down with a lovely girl just outside in one of the home counties. It's beautiful. They live a very happy life. No, but I think it's that perception. It's going back to that kind of the fan perception and expectations, I suppose, of some of the characters going into season 4, and it being based obviously on Drums of Autumn and where those characters go and the evolution of those characters particularly, and there are certain things that you want to stay true to, I suppose, in terms of how those characters evolve and the journey that those characters go on. So for me particularly, I know that Roger's stuff's all going to be based in libraries and researching and all that kind of thing, but I suppose it's you know, keeping in mind that there are going to be, you know, things that people are looking forward to, expectations, changes, I suppose, changes to the character and how they evolve and how they move along on their journey and how they are different at the end of that, I suppose, for me was something that, you know, I kept in mind particularly through shooting season 4, and hopefully I stayed on track with that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, a similar thing in that I can't really say too much of Bree's story from this season, but in terms of one of the biggest challenges, I think for me was just, from a research point of view, Brianna, she goes through quite a lot this season, and I wanted to make sure that I did enough research to play what she goes through and sort of the aftermath of what she goes through in a way that does justice to people who've been through a similar thing. So I suppose that was one of the biggest challenges, just putting yourself in that headspace.
That's, yeah. Me, it was, this feels like Jamie's a lot of experience now, and certainly this season, I think you see, you know, elements of every season. You know, you see the young warrior, but you see, you know, the leader of men and the politician, and he's drawing on all that experience. And actually, towards the middle of it, he becomes on the front foot. You know, it feels like last seasons he's always trying to catch up to things and save his wife from something, but
Or vice versa.
or vice versa. But no, it feels, you know, like he does for a moment at least get into this place where he's drawing on his experience and really becoming, you know, the laird that he wanted to be, I think, in a way. But it's Outlander, so things go wrong quite quickly.
I think for me, I definitely feel like I got to explore a completely different side of Claire that I don't think that I've had the opportunity to explore before. Given that they are setting up home, that it's a quieter part of their lives, it's a much more nurturing side to her, and it's not, you know, we've sort of done more career-driven Claire, and I think Claire has been more on the front foot before, and this was an opportunity to explore this other side of her, which, you know, I think was really interesting, and it gave me a really new challenge, and that's kind of great after having already done 3 seasons to go into a new season and be like, oh, this is a side of her that actually I probably haven't considered enough before. And yeah, it was nice to be able to examine that.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna do a couple audience questions. From Deb.
Hi, Deb.
Pickle Pin Gal from Pittsburgh.
Who? There she is. Don't know her at all.
There she is.
Hi, Deb. Yins are good.
Did you ever find that a certain prop or costume helped you get into character for a difficult scene?
What's the question?
The gun. I had a scene with a gun and it was great.
We can't really.
You have a pretty
I have an answer. I can't give it.
Like, if your costume doesn't do anything for you, it does it for me. I'm not joking. Like,
Do you guys want me to?
Do you want to swap seats?
I came dressed as Richard Rankin today. I think tomorrow you'll find that we just swap outfits. Yeah. What was the question?
Is there a certain prop that helps you get in, or costume?
Oh, a prop. No. I can't think of one, I'm sorry.
What? Nothing where that you built that whole cabin with your bare hands and not one of those props?
No,
Wait,
I mean,
was that a
yes, no, it
spoiler?
is. No,
Sorry.
I haven't really thought about it. A prop. Oh God, help me out here. Let's move on. I'll think
move
about
on.
that one.
Richard and Sophie, do you have anything to say about that question?
Prop.
I really do, but
You can talk around it. You don't have to say
can
what.
I hear that
around
Jamie's quite good with bindings. I mean, just generally. Just generally.
Generally, yeah.
I hear he's great at tying people to horses. It's just word on the street. Yeah. So
Just
you're
rumors.
good with, he's good with rope.
Couldn't possibly say anything.
Carol wants to know how much research you did into early American history.
I assume that was for the actors, not
I was curious. Yeah, Sam, how much research did you do?
A lot.
I mean, the fundamental research was done by Diana. Really?
Yes.
So you have that as a foundation, but in addition to that, the writers individually and as a group did their own research. Then we also had historical consultants. We had Native American consultants. I mean, but that's been a part of the show from the beginning. We've always kind of started with what Diana gave us. Writers in their individual episodes would go off and obsessively research particular things in their episode. Talking about you, Tony Graffia. And then we would also hire outside consultants that we would literally call up and say, hey, does this really happen? Or how did this work? Or then they would read scripts and vet them and send us notes, and it's an ongoing process. So there's a lot of, and all the individual departments do research, costume department does its own research, art department does its own research. There's a tremendous amount of digging through old books and trying to find things, and a lot of time on Wikipedia, I'm sure.
And also, there's actually, just for Jamie's side, that I think there's I think he sees a lot of similarities in his culture and the Native American culture, and I think there's a respect there. It's this warrior culture, and I think obviously he comes from a place where he has absolutely no understanding, like myself. But no, there definitely is a real similarity there, and I think there's an understanding between him eventually, without giving away spoilers. But there is some sort of understanding, ultimately.
All right,
It's a long journey.
Last question, because this is like the most important question of the night. Tell us about working with Rollo.
Oh my God. Rollo's the best. That dog.
Rollo's a complete CG creation, so don't get that.
Yeah. He doesn't actually exist.
It's actually John Bell in a suit.
I will say the one secret about Rollo is, we searched far and wide. This was a big priority for us, obviously, in season 3 of the search for Rollo and doing it early, because you obviously have to get this dog as a puppy so you can train this dog and etc. Find a dog that looks like a wolf, and we got 2 of the sweetest dogs in history that wouldn't harm a fly, don't like to bark, like to sleep. Our Rollo, whose name is McDew, we call him Dewey, he sleeps all the time. It's very hard to get him to act ferocious.
When he's not eating horse dung.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's true. It's one of his favorite treats.
I feel like
Sitting in
he's
post and it's like, Rollo's supposed to growl at somebody.
We had a scene where he's supposed to bark at a door, and his trainer was on the other side of the door with a squeaky toy, so all you can hear is, Dewey, Dewey. You're supposed to be in the scene, like, very, scared, and all of that's going on. You're just, yeah.
Our AD team hates Rollo, I've got to be honest, because the number of times Rollo's supposed to go that way and he goes that way,
So he sleeps.
Training is, it's a loose term.
He sleeps a lot. He eats a lot. I feel, and doesn't know what he's doing. I feel like he's learned a lot.
Who's more likely
He'll
to
fit
ruin
in.
a scene, Dewey or Richard?
Dewey. Even Richard
ruin
can.
scenes.
Ruin it, break a scene by laughing or causing a commotion.
I think you've got the wrong impression of me.
I mean, I think your co-stars have
I
a wrong
bring scenes
impression
to
of
life,
you.
not ruin them.
All right,
Isn't that right?
No one is jumping to your defense right now.
All right, we're all out of time, you guys, but thank you so much for coming. This was really fun. Outlander premieres November 4th. My bad.